I don't think it's a matter of studying extensively. They are quite accessible. I think the main reason is just a lack of awareness. I believe that everybody has something useful to share with the world. And, we all have certain kinds of expertise that is going to make a difference to the world and make it a better place. Sometimes you have to take a step back and let things happen organically. So, if you're finding you're running really fast, the simplest thing you do at that time is to slow down.
You are an author, executive coach, and speaker. So very welcome to our show today. How are you?
Yeah, thank you, Arshad, firstly, for inviting me on your platform. I'm delighted to be here.
Very welcome.
I'm very good. Yeah, I've had a lovely day. So I'm feeling good. Yeah, thank you.
Great. Great to know, first of all, and especially people like you who have the right tools as well to help people, and definitely you know how to help yourself. But we'll come to that point because people who help others at the same time, sometimes there are moments when they need the help themselves. You want to help people to live their lives to the full potential. So how did you start, first of all, and what inspired you?
Okay, so I think I've known since I was little that I always wanted to help people. So I wanted to do sociology, psychology for my A levels, and I always knew it would be something to do with people and helping people.
Okay.
But so my earlier jobs were, in those kind of people-facing careers. But the main turning point for me came when I went to university as a mature student.
Okay.
So when my daughter started school, I went to university and I did counseling psychology. The time that I was writing my thesis, so for some reason I chose to research stress management.
Okay.
And for some reason, when I was working on my thesis, there were a few things going on for me. There's a lot of things happening in the family. My dad passed away. There was the pressure of a young family and doing a degree and having to do your research and your assignments. And so I was under a lot of stress. And what happened is the techniques that I was uncovering through my research, I started to practice those to help myself. And I found that they were so simple and so easy, and they were making such a lot of difference to how I was feeling, that I decided to make a commitment to share with more and more people through my career. So then I set up my private practice, and I set up a training consultancy in stress management, resilience, and well-being. And I started to work for some top consultancies in the country.
Okay.
Started to travel a lot. Started to work a lot with managers and all sorts of organizations, voluntary, private, public. And then in 2005, I set up my own consultancy, which is called AUM. So it's OM, our Eastern philosophy. OM comes from our Eastern philosophy.
Okay.
It's spelled AUM. So my consultancy is called AUM Wellbeing Consultancy. So although my training has been in Western psychological models and organizational models, in my work, I integrate a lot of the Eastern philosophy as well. So my work is a combination of kind of East and West techniques.
Okay.
And so the programs we run include, have aspects of mindfulness, and relaxation, meditation, all those kinds of interventions, that come from our Eastern philosophy.
You mentioned these techniques are quite easier techniques when you started studying that. So, where do normally individuals struggle to find them if they're that easy? I mean, why come we normally don't find it in our lives? We start practicing them. Why do we have to study so extensively?
I don't think it's a matter of studying extensively. They're quite accessible. I think the main reason is just a lack of awareness
Okay.
of people. So, for example, I have clients all the time who, when they're stressed, they think they should join a gym, or they fall back on alcohol at the end of the day and a few glasses of wine at the end of the day. And I'm okay with people joining gyms and that, but actually sometimes it causes more stress because, first of all, it costs a lot of money. Then you have to pack your bag, you have to drive to the gym, you have to find parking, you have to come back. If you have children, you have to find babysitters. And if you can manage this, it's great. But the techniques that I put forward actually don't need you to take these big chunks of time in your day. They are very natural, and you can integrate them into a small, you can sneak them into your daily routine, even though you have a very, very hectic routine.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you asked a very good question. The lack of awareness is the main thing that stop people from using these techniques. And so I've made a commitment to reach out to as many people as I can, and I'm very passionate about passing these techniques on for the reasons that I've just outlined.
So that's where the experts like you in these techniques and also people with experiences like you, they can help people. It's very interesting when you mention that normally you sometimes inspire people because it creates more stress. But that's one way of doing things, because this is one question I'll come to you today. Because when we face distress in terms of when we're trying to do something, we have a vision, but every now and then we face obstacles. At what point do we decide that either we would employ grit or we would pivot? That whether we should give up or whether we should persevere?
Yeah. So I think that the resistance there would be of not reaching out and asking for help. So if you're at that knife edge point where you think you're going to fall over and you're going to, in my language, we call it having a breakdown, or having a nervous breakdown. But if you feel you are getting to that point, then be open about asking for help and reaching out to people, and kind of get in touch with people like myself, because we would be able to share such simple things that will help you to thrive, instead of struggle in the way that you're struggling.
Because you have done a lot of one-to-one coaching, which you do apart from your group activities. You definitely do one-to-one coaching as well. What do
Yes.
you think? What stops people in terms of be forthcoming about asking for help from others?
I think it is seen as a sign of weakness. If you, that's the main reason. So if you are brought up with the English stiff upper lip, then firstly, you wouldn't even share that you're going through those difficulties.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's not easy to talk about these things. Even if you did, there's the fear that people around you might think you are weak, or you should be able to get on and cope with these things. But, it's unrealistic to cope with everything that's thrown on us. There's so much that our body has to cope with on a day-to-day basis, that it's unrealistic to expect to cope when the pressures become excessive in our life. So it's quite normal to ask for help,
Mm-hmm.
and actually it's a sign of courage, and it's using the wisdom within you when you ask for support, rather than to keep it to yourself.
Sometimes people share their secrets, their lives, their issues, problems with me, even though I'm not an expert in that field, but definitely I do a lot of reading. I talk to people like you and learn from people like you. So I have found many times when someone has decided, they already have the questions. They made up their mind what they do want to do, what they don't want to do. but still they're sharing with you. And when you give them the solution, they keep on giving you hundreds of excuses. How do you deal with that? And definitely you face that in your day-to-day activity.
So yes, the resistance is there, and part of our work is to help people to overcome that resistance. I might have to reinforce that a few times, or I might have to. I think the other fear is about having to face, the gremlins from the past, or having to face with some kind of emotional pain, and so that we have to give our clients a lot of reassurance, to say that we'll help them to work at their own pace, and be very gentle with the journey that we are supporting them through, and give them a lot of reassurance, and I don't think I have come across many clients who after that would not want to face their issues and deal with them.
That's good. It seems like there's hope.
Yeah.
So, when we talk about these issues, and you have been talking about it too, I feel like the term resilience has definitely a place in that conversation. So, I get to hear that a lot every time I talk to people about this well being issues, spiritual growth, mental growth, self improvement. How do you term it? Resilience being associated with creativity. One of my last podcasts, someone was saying that creativity helps you towards resilience. How do you uh, explain that term?
Yeah, I use a very simple concept, which is a calm in chaos. So if you visualize, everywhere around you is chaos, everything around you is chaotic, but within that chaos you are very calm and clear, and uh, and in tune with your creativity and your purpose, and you can still go ahead with your life and do what you're supposed to do that day in a very calm state, and that is being resilient. The skill is that when there's all this chaos going around you and you are very calm and you're going forward on your journey, and if you feel a little bit of shakiness, or you think you're going to be drawn into that chaos, then you have all the tips on your fingertips, all the things that we teach our clients, and you have that repertoire of skills, life skills with
Mm-hmm.
you. You'll be able to come back into that calm state very quickly.
Mm.
So that's um, all the books I've written and all the blogs that I write, all the work that we do of our clients, whether it's organizational or individual, is based on that. So you can apply the same concept to an organization, and you can apply the same concept with an individual.
Because as we were discussing in one of the podcasts, in one of my podcasts, that the autonomous nervous system, you have the sympathetic and the parasympathetic
Parasympathetic, yeah.
responses. So first of all, your response will be definitely is the fight or flight response.
Yeah.
But the thing is that, as you said, you can definitely, you might not have hand in it how you respond to it straight away, but over time, you can be well equipped to be in control.
Yeah.
You would have those techniques as you're saying.
Yeah, so it becomes automatic pilot after a while, so you just automatically fall back on those techniques because you've been practicing them for a
Mm-hmm.
while. So if a client is very stressed and they are inclined to go home and pour a glass of wine at the end of the day, right after our work, that craving for that glass of wine is not going to be there. And if they go back home, or they're walking back home after a hectic, stressful day at work, they will automatically fall back on the things that they've learned. So they might think, okay, uh, I'm feeling stressed. They'll know how to recognize the signs at a very early stage,
Mm.
and they would fall back on the alternatives automatically. So they might think, okay, I think I need to stop the car and I'll have this short walk as I'm driving past this park in nature. And then maybe I'll sit in my car and I'll do 10 minutes of meditation. Or maybe I will do the therapeutic writing, and, write out all this anger that I'm feeling towards my manager.
Mm-hmm.
Or they might want to do the three. So they might sit in the car, do an unsent letter to the manager, get all the anger out of the system, then go for a walk in the park, then come back, do a short meditation. And by the time they've got home, they're nice and calm again.
Very beautifully explained. Very nice.
Yeah.
So, as you mentioned about writing, since you are an author yourself and you have so far 7 books, I understand.
So I've got about 12 to 15 books. I don't count my digital books. I've written
Okay.
7 digital books
Hard
for the
copies now.
corporate
Okay.
audience.
Mm-hmm.
Then I've written 3 in the Stress to Success series. So that's the Stress to Success
That's your
series. Then
first
I've
three
written,
books, I understand. These are your
yeah.
first
And
three. Yeah.
then I wrote my memoir, which is the Best of Three Worlds. My challenges and how I draw on the Eastern philosophy as well as my Western education
Mm-hmm.
to deal with stress and stay resilient in my life. And I was born in Africa of Indian origin parents as a British subject.
Yeah.
So I have drawn from all these 3 cultures as part of my identity.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Best of Three Worlds, I bring all that together, and all these philosophies uh, together and share my journey with my readers. It's also about the 3 cultures, the African, Indian, and English cultures coming together. There's also, I go over the history as well, the colonial histories. And about the Chakraji series. So these
Mm-hmm.
are the
Children's
children's
book.
the children's books. So I wrote quite a few books on adults, resilience for the corporate world as well as for individuals, and I wrote my memoir.
Because your fifth and sixth book, I guess you had written during the time of pandemic. So
So the
yeah.
children's books came about in during the lockdown last year, because I thought there were a lot of there was a lot of content in my adult books that was already there that would help
Mm-hmm.
the challenges of the pandemic, for adults and my clients. Uh, and I got concerned about the rising levels of stress in children. And so I used my time in lockdown to write children's books. And in the children's books are about, so I developed a character called Chakraji, as you can see. And Chakraji is the child's magical friend. And a child is feeling worried about something, and this beautiful bird takes the child to this magical best friend called Chakraji. And Chakraji passes this simple, natural technique to the child.
In
And
an
then,
accessible way.
yeah, in an accessible way, practices with the child. And so the child learns to use that whenever he or she is worried about something. And then there is affirmation. So the bird teaches the child affirmations as well.
Okay.
And at the moment, my book, Stress to Success in 28 Days, it's coming out in November. So this is a 28-day program. So it's
Okay.
not like a normal book that you read from cover to cover. You you do one little technique that only takes about 3 or 4 minutes.
Exercises that you have to practice over time.
Yeah, it's very simple, and these are techniques that you can integrate when you're at work, when you're on the bus, when you're waiting for the kettle to boil, or you're waiting for your laptop to boot up. And so you learn these kind of techniques one every day over 28 days, and you slowly begin to integrate these 2 or 3 minute techniques into your day. And by the end of the 28th day, you've learned 10 or 12 those kind of techniques that you want to stay with. And you've also learned how to integrate those into your very busy day. And then you just come back to the book and you keep going over the 28-day program until it just becomes an automatic response to staying calm and relaxed.
Because writing, being a writer yourself, I hear that over and over again these days, the importance of keeping a journal, writing something, anything to begin your day. It's like a spiritual windshield wiper that clears up all the confusions or any thoughts you have, you take them away. So
Hmm.
how do you think it can benefit anyone? Because many people, and I heard one of your interviews where you had said that everyone has a writer living inside them. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
how can they bring them out, or what's the procedure, or how it can help people? Definitely, it has some well-being aspect related to it too.
I believe that everybody has something useful to share with the world. And, we all have certain kinds of expertise that is going to make a difference to the world and make it a better place. The second part of your question, in terms of writing being therapeutic,
Yeah.
is absolutely true. And you can use writing in several ways that uh, enables the cathartic process. The main ones that I share with my clients is the free-flowing writing. So in the example that I gave you, with the person who's very stressed coming from work and has had a bad day with his manager, um, what you would do is you just take a pad and you say, I'm feeling angry because, and then you just keep pouring whatever your thoughts are onto the piece of paper. So instead of bottling it inside of you, you are spilling it out onto the paper. And so you don't worry about the grammar or whether what you're writing is making sense. You just keep pouring it out because you don't want to hold that anger or
It
sadness
also
or
probably
guilt.
helps because if you feel like I can't share it straight away with another person, and you're not comfortable, but you can share it with, on the paper, you can write it down. At least it's out
Yeah.
of your system.
Yes. Yeah. And the other way you can do it is you can write an unsent letter to whoever you have issues with. And because you're not going to send it, you can use any kind of language, uncensored language. And it's the actually bringing it out and the expression of it onto the piece of paper. It's safe. So no, if you are very angry and you start swearing and shouting at somebody or hitting somebody, it's going to have all sorts of repercussions. But the writing technique, when you pour out all your emotions onto the piece of paper, it's very safe. It's not harming
Yeah.
anybody, and it's confidential. You don't have to share it with anybody, and it's a very safe and controlled way of doing it. So that's those two techniques are about using writing to address stress. But overall, writing is also really good for your creative juices and to flow. And the books that I write are very much about me being in tune, with my creative process. And as you know, if the more you are in tune with your creativity, the more you are in tune with your purpose and whatever you um, meant to do to help other people. Writing, it keeps you in touch with that creative process. It gives meaning to your life. So once you've done the free flowing writing, you read what you've written and you make you make note of the main points, and then throw the paper away because it's all kind of negative, toxic
Yeah.
energy. You don't want to hold on to it. But there might be some nuggets that come up. There might be some patterns or some themes that come up that give you that perspective, or give you another angle that helps you to cope with that issue. So you always read back and then you make note of the things that you want to hold on to. Then you throw away the paper.
But when someone is writing a book, most people have this complaint about writer's block. So, do you face that? Because what I have learned, because you have been speaking to another author, it felt like your writing process is quite free flowing, so to speak, because you can put your thoughts down and you divide them in different categories. Before me elaborating on that one, because you're the author, you can explain what's your process of writing, and also how do you deal with the writer's block, if there is any, if you
Yeah.
face anything like that.
So you were completely right with my process at the start. So whatever is going on in my head, and there's loads of books going on in my head. So I just put them down in whatever shape and form they come, and then I will bring the themes and spread them into chapters, and then do some more research, and then build on the content that way. With I think every writer goes through writer's block, and if they say they don't, I probably wouldn't believe them. I think most writers do. And what I do is I just stop, and I will have a break. If I might go out for a walk in nature, but if you do anything creative that's going to loosen up the stuckness of your creative energy, and anything that's going to trigger it again and get it started flowing again. So you could be doing things like going for a walk in nature, you could meditate. Sometimes what I do is I light a candle, and then I just look at the light of the candle, because that's another way of getting your connecting with your psyche and getting your thoughts and feelings that you want to express yourself. So I would just have a break and do something creative. It might even be cooking the dinner and cooking something different, because cooking is creative, and do something creative that will help to unstuck the energy that's frozen.
Like when you say creative, you're not saying that, okay, you have to be an artist, you have to be a musician, you have to be a singer. You're saying whatever you like doing. If you like to cook, just try a new dish. If you like anything that's possible by any individual, whatever within their capability or capacities. The idea of vulnerability that comes a lot, and that definitely comes from as humans, our tendency towards negativity bias. So do you find yourself sometimes, even being a mentor yourself, do you go through the process as a coach as well, that you are overwhelmed? Or if you ever feel that, as you mentioned, that we are all humans, we should go through that, and this is not unnatural. So how do you deal with that if it happens to you?
Yeah, so I think every person in the helping profession uh, would feel stressed, because you are helping other people. You've got stuff going on in your own life, then you're also dealing with stuff going on in your clients' lives, right? And you're taking this on, your body has to cope with that. Exactly. So I'm always mindful of having very robust routines, that help me to work through the stress in my body, so that it's not building up. So I often give the metaphor of the stress pot, so if you're bottling your stress up, the bottle's filling up, and then it kind of becomes a big pot, and then it weighs you down, and you get stuck in that energy, and then you lose your motivation, and energy, and you feel tired all the time. So it's very important to empty your pot out on a regular basis. And I have several things in my routine where I empty the pot out on a regular basis. And sometimes it might mean that you have to take some additional time, out of your week or your month, have a week off, have a day off to catch up and come back into that calm state again. So yes, I think everyone has routine. To be mindful of that. Yes.
So what's your routine? How do you start your day, finish your evening, or you finish the day?
Yeah, so I start my day, either go, in summer, if the weather's nice, I'll go for a walk about 50 minutes, 45 minutes to 50 minutes. If the weather's not nice, I have a yoga routine every morning. Then I have my shower, and I meditate for 15-20 minutes after my shower every morning before breakfast. Then I'll do things at lunchtime. So I will either go for a walk, or again do some breathing or meditation, or do something in the garden, or kind of pottery in the garden to connect with nature. And then at the end of the day, I will always listen to my body to see if I'm holding on to anything that I need to let go of. So I might do some therapeutic writing to let go of that. And then before bedtime, I always meditate again. The evening period is quite crucial, because remember the stress is building up during the day, and you have to listen to your body in the early evening to see how much has built up, within you, and do the therapeutic writing, or go for a walk in nature, or go for a run or a jog, or do a yoga session, something to work all that stress out. And then you do your evening domestic routine, and then before bedtime you do something else to wind down and relax, so that you have a good night's sleep.
Because I follow certain kind of routine, I try to stick to it. But every now and then things happen, and there's so many things I want to do. I mean, I have tried all my life to integrate as many skills as possible as a human, and I keep on learning new ones. The problem is that they build up. I have to maintain all of this, but sometimes I feel overwhelmed, and then the feeling of guilt comes. End of the day, that if something happens like that, say for example, when you feel, oh my God, I was supposed to do that, and what's happening? I'm not being productive. Every now and then it can happen. What do you suggest? How to cope with that?
Well, if it's any reassurance, I've been there, because I'm so passionate about my work. And so, I love my family. So I want to help my family. I want to write lots of books. I want to help lots of people through our consultancy. Like you, I did a bit of singing in an Indian band, So
Wow.
I want to do
I'm not sure
so
many people know
much.
about this. We know you as an author, as a coach, but I didn't know. Probably we should listen to something today.
Oh no, I'm not trained.
Okay.
But like I'm so passionate about everything that I do, and then I want to do so much. So, but I think sometimes you have to take a step back and let things happen organically.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're finding you're running really fast, the simplest thing you do at that time is to slow down. So if you think I've got 10 things to do, and I have to work really fast, and that's the only way I'm going to get those things done, you actually do the opposite. You stop and you slow down, because that is when you will get the perspective on all those things, and you'll be more effective when you slow down than trying to do things really fast and rushing through things. So that's the simplest. And then let things evolve organically. You can prioritize.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got 10 things, first of all, just stop, then slow down, then just think about what your priority for that day is,
Mm.
and then just mindfully engage in that activity, and all the rest will fall into place after that.
It's very important. And nowadays, this is one of the things I hear people say a lot, that have only one important thing on the list, on your to-do list, or probably just two or three, that you feel you're totally intentional and it is the most significant towards, I mean, that
Yeah,
is aligned with your goal or your vision in life.
absolutely spot on. Yes, yeah.
That's very good. I mean, and when I'm listening to you, I'm like, okay, that's some kind of reassurance, because every now and then I go through that, and we have this tendency, people who try to be productive or who are productive, they sometimes end up being very harsh towards them, and they feel that, okay, I failed. And this feeling of failure it can
No.
be very overwhelming.
How much is enough, though? You have to ask yourself the question, what is enough? So if I've written 6 books with children,
Mm-hmm.
and I am feeling very impatient, and I'm saying I want to write another 20 books, I'll have written the 20, then I want to write another 20, but
Mm.
how much is enough? And it's not about whether I might write 20 books and then nobody would read them, but I might write just one, and it'll help 20 people change their lives. So how much is, you have to ask yourself, how much is enough, and
Mm.
what's the quality of what I'm doing rather than the quantity of what I'm doing.
It's so much
And
in
it's,
line with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That was
yeah,
the quality.
yeah, it's the quality of what you do rather than the quantity. So you have to ask yourself, how much is enough, and actually what you do in your 8 hours or 9 hours of whatever work you do is more than enough. Yeah, yeah. But I think we should be teaching our children to do what they enjoy, so it's not always about academic prowess, but
Mm.
it's about staying in tune with who they really are, and staying in tune with what they enjoy and having that space for rest and relaxation and creativity. Because if you made such an important point, if you look at the children these days, they come from they're at school. First of all, it's a rushed journey in a car through traffic, and moms and dads are busy, rushing off to work, so they're in a kind of stress state when they drop the child to school. Then at school there's all that pressure, then they finish
Mm-hmm.
school, then they're rushed off to this class, and then they rushed off to that class, then they come home, then they have to do the homework, then and the next day it's the same, and weekend moms are up at 9 o'clock taking them to that class and this class, and you know where is the time for them just to be,
Mm-hmm.
just to
No, it's a
be.
very good point. The thing is, as an author, normally you probably have come across this idea. Some people think that, okay, if you're writing for children, you're not, okay, not a serious author writing for children. But the thing is that the important issue is during the pandemic, when the adults, they have seen their parents going through the trouble, how it has affected, and what a good
Oh,
point you've picked up,
absolutely. Hmm.
that they're seeing, okay, they are probably worrying about money, mortgage, and what they're going to do. They're losing their jobs and how they will
Hmm.
make, and what's going to happen to the business. So at that time, that's the right time to pick up. And you realized, you saw that potential in a sense that they need that. It's not about potential, it's more about
Hmm.
being in service. Nowadays, especially coming from the Asian background, you and I both, and which you mentioned a very nice point, that normally to let children decide for themselves to a certain extent, because normally this tendency we have seen, especially with baby boomers, our parents age, that they decide mostly you're becoming a lawyer or a doctor or an accountant, but you don't have any choice. And I've met many British born Asian children, or even who are quite grown up now at the uni stage, but at the age of 2022, I've met them. They said, you know what? I hate studying law, but my dad wants me to be a lawyer, but I want to be a football coach. There's someone who is a Chinese young lady. She was a pianist. She was pushed so much to become a pianist. And I met her. She's like, I'm in Germany now. I'm studying to be an anthropologist. I'm so happy I don't have to do any more music. I was like, really? I died to be a musician. I enjoy. That's my therapy. She said that you don't realize how much pressure it's been put, that I started hating music. I don't like music at all. So this importance of the balance, I think it's very
Yes.
important. And what you mentioned very rightfully. So, what do you think in terms of the vulnerability that it creates among us? And also, we grow up being Asian, especially in the Western countries. I've seen it in America as well, that being vulnerable as a man, that you're not supposed to show your emotion. You shouldn't have tears in your eyes when you're watching a movie. Your wife or your partner can feel it, but you shouldn't. If you do it, even if you sing, I faced it. That when you sing, oh, no, no, please don't sing. Men, if you sing, it's not that manly. What do you think, how important it is for people to be vulnerable or show their emotions and be open? I mean, irrespective of you being a man or woman.
uh, if men are not allowed to show their emotions, does that mean men are not human and only women are human? Because everybody's human and everybody feels emotion, right? So if you're not supposed to show your emotion, then your humanity is being disregarded, and you are being made into a non-human, because machines and tables and chairs, they don't have emotions, but
Mm-hmm.
we are human, we have emotions, so we need to express our emotions. And like I said earlier, it's a sign of strength to express your emotions. It's not a sign of weakness. As humans, we have emotions, but as humans, we also have our own purpose and our direction. So if your parents force you to be a lawyer, but you want to be an artist, they are forcing you again. That is a form of dehumanization, because
Mm.
you as a human being have a certain natural flair and natural ability, that needs to be expressed, and depending on what our genes are, our
Mm.
areas of creativity will be different, our areas of interest will be different, and so it's recognizing that in your child, what are the subjects do they enjoy, when you've got them to experiment with all these activities as a child, which are the ones that they're really passionate about, and they're looking forward to going, and which are the ones that they enjoy. And it's about encouraging your children to do more of the things that is natural to them,
Mm-hmm.
and which is aligned to their own creativity. I mean, luckily, the way I was brought up, we were never forced to do anything, so my mom and dad always gave us the freedom to do whatever we wanted to do and grow in our own way and follow our own paths. So I've been blessed that I never had to go through that. This is really kind of breaking your child's resilience when you do that, because resilience is about being in tune with who you naturally are as a person,
Mm-hmm.
and then being around all those things that will help that to flourish. So we all have a certain kind of seed. So you might have an apple seed or a pear seed or a marigold seed or whatever. And if you're an apple seed and you're forced to become a pear, you're not going to be resilient. You're going to break down at a certain point in your life. But if you're given the right soil and the right water and the right temperature
Mm-hmm.
for your natural seed, you will flourish as a person. And so it's about getting to know your children and getting to know where their natural flair is, and encouraging them to go into professions where they can develop that.
I
So
think that might account for a lot of the issues that people face, the midlife crisis, the term.
mm,
Probably
mm,
that's when they realize, what have I done with my life? No one tries to go back to the origin where the problem started.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
definitely, you
yeah,
probably
and
can shed more light on that.
yes, yes. So uh, that's what midlife crisis is about. You are going in a direction, and you suddenly realize you're going in the wrong direction, and your body will tell you at that time. You will, feel stressed out. You will feel you are not happy. Something is missing in your life. Something within you doesn't feel right, and that this is when you will make the decisions to change career or change path at that time.
So, as I said, humans being negativity bias, they definitely have the negative voices all the time. So, even when you think about writing a new book, you probably have thought, okay, I've written 3 books or a series of books as success, Stress to Success. Shall I write the fourth or the fifth book again, or shall I write something different? Or probably when you have thought about writing children's books, you probably have thought, well, what people will think about me because I'm an adult writer. I've been writing about such serious topic. If they term me as a children book writer, so I don't know. I'm just creating a scenario. Probably you haven't because you know so much about this already. What are the ways, or what do you advise your clients or people you work with how to deal with that?
Yeah, I think in the very early stages as a writer, I did go through the imposter syndrome. I was thinking, am I writing? Are people going to judge me? Are they going to think this isn't good enough? Are
Mm.
they going to think, oh, she's writing, rubbish? And so the early stages as a writer, I did go through this. But as I had more and more feedback that my books were really helping my clients, and people were coming back and giving me feedback, I got over that eventually. And now I just follow my guidance, so I get up in the morning, and when I do my meditation, I ask my guides to um, help me with the next steps that I need to take for that day. That'll help me to help more people, and that'll help me to stay on my path. And then I just let those things develop, and I just work with whatever comes on any given day. I have complete faith in that. And
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to go through the imposter syndrome initially, but then you kind of settle in and you have confidence in what you're doing, and whatever contribution you're making to the world, you are content that you are able to do that.
And also, I think
And
to a
then you
certain
just
extent,
take,
being comfortable with failures, it's important as well.
I think everyone has failures. It would be very unrealistic to expect in our life that everything will go straight and everything will go in the right direction. That's completely
True.
unrealistic. So there'll be times when you will end up in the wrong direction, you will struggle, and all these are all part of learning and growing. These are all opportunities that help you to grow. And the way I perceive those things is that I need to learn. I'm not going forward because there's something else I need to learn to overcome this hurdle. And just about 2 months ago, I was writing this corporate book, because I write for this digital platform, Bookboon. And the book is called The 7 Pillars of Organizational Wellbeing. And I was working on that book. I hit this writer's block, and I couldn't just go forward with this book, And
Yeah.
then uh, I left it and I did what I usually do. I went for a walk, I meditated, I just uh, detached myself from it and I let it go. And then after a while, this thought come, okay, I think you need to kind of read up a bit more on this, and you need to uh, uh, broaden your horizon on this topic. And I come back to my office and I look at my bookshelf, and this book pops out, in my vision. And I do a bit of reading, and
Mm-hmm.
then everything starts to fall in place with this book. So when I hit this hurdle,
Mm-hmm.
to me, it says, I need to learn a bit more. This is my opportunity to learn and grow. And as soon as I had read those few chapters in this book, everything fitted in this book. But that's what I needed to learn. Right. And I really enjoyed that learning, and I really enjoyed then putting everything together. But if whenever you hit a hurdle, it means there's something you have to learn. Don't be frustrated. Don't say, oh, why is this happening? And I'm so unlucky, and
Mm.
nothing goes right with me, and
Probably it's
I'm
not
not
for
meant to
me.
do this,
Yeah.
and this is not for blah, 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 blah. And so you just say, okay, I'm not getting anywhere. I'm meant to learn something. So what is it that I'm going, I have to learn? I'm
Mm.
open to whatever that learning is. I'm giving that space for whatever I need to learn to come to me. And then you just let it go and it'll just come. Somebody will say something, or you're out for a walk and somebody will mention something, or your eye will go on a book, or this blog will appear in your email, or something will happen that will help you to move forward with your journey.
No, when you're ready for something,
But
then
it's
it
having
comes
that
to you.
faith,
Yeah.
yeah, just have complete faith on your journey, and just trust the process.
But there's one thing that also probably happens for humans. Anything is possible if you put your mind to it, because we have seen some extraordinary things being done by people who, in normal situation, you can't think that they can win an Olympic medal probably, or the hurdles they have gone through, but they have done it. So it proves the point that it's possible. There are also situations that definitely it's possible, but should you do it or not? That's the question. That's another problem that I feel. Say, for example, I have studied law, but I studied science at some point. Then I'm doing an MSc now in electronic engineering, totally different. But sometimes when I do programming and everything I'm doing, I feel sometimes I don't enjoy it. But I know if I persevere through it, I can make it happen. And I have done many things like that in my life. But at some point I feel, really, if I'm not really enjoying doing it, even if I can do it, how should I think about it? Is it really for me, or
So
is time to change?
you might disagree with me, but um, whatever is right for you will feel right for you in your gut. you know. If you feel something's grating on you and you having to work very hard, right, then that's probably the wrong thing for you. Because when you're doing what you love and when you're doing what you're aligned to and what is natural to you, it doesn't feel like work. But if at the end of the day you're forcing to do that work and you are exhausted at the end of the day, that's probably the wrong thing you're doing. I can give you a really good example. This year I set up some managers forums, so we advertised for managers to join us on this forum where we would talk about organizational well-being and help them to develop, organizational well-being within their teams. And we started advertising in autumn last year, intending to support managers with all the challenges they were going through with the pandemic, etc. And then so the first few sessions went really well, and then when the things started to get back to normal and people started to go back to offices, the attendance at the forum started to drop. Whenever the time for the forum came every month, I would get this really uncomfortable feeling, in my gut, and then I wouldn't look forward to it, and then this happened for a couple of months. Each time the date of the forum would come, I'd feel really uncomfortable, and I wouldn't look forward to it. I decided to end the forums because it was grating on me. They weren't growing organically. And I'm working on quite a few books at this moment. So I think I'm meant to just focus on my books, and if this is grating for me, and if this feels like I have to put so much work in it and then it's not going anywhere,
time to pivot.
It's the wrong thing for me. I'm going in the wrong direction. But when it came to writing the books, so I was writing the 7 pillars of organizational well-being at the same time, and I would look forward, to sitting down in my office and getting on with this book. And so that's the right thing for me, because I'm enjoying that. I'm motivated to do that. It's not grating on me. It's not rubbing against me, So it really is about listening to your gut. What's the thing that really excites you, that doesn't feel like work, and if you've done 10-12 hours of work, it doesn't feel as if you have worked. It just feels like a labor of love.
I'm very interested in neuroscience. So for many years, I've been trying to, because I have studied law, then I've done a bachelor's in music technology. But my idea was to integrate music technology and neuroscience together, how these two can be combined. So I realize whenever I'm talking about perception, music perception, recognition, cognition, and things like that, there's a light bulb that goes on.
Yes, then that's the right thing for you.
Yeah.
But
Sometimes it's hard though, isn't it? Sometimes when we put in a lot of work towards a certain direction and halfway through when you find that probably it's not the right thing, to come back from there, you're like, okay, I've spent money, I spent time, and that's an opportunity as well. What should
yeah.
I do? Is there any mindset then how you convince yourself, look, this is not the right, stop now, even before you go any further?
So you have to do it gradually. So I have loads of clients who are in that state, and I say it's a really hard decision. So if you are, say, in engineering and you want to go in art, for example, it's not practical just to ditch your job in, because you might have a mortgage, you might have a young family. So what you do is you make the transition very gradually. So can you spare half a day in your week where you can engage with some art? Can you get together in an art forum? Can you find some friends who are also in art and find ways of engaging with what you love? Then you build on that. So if you start with half a day, or you start with joining an art group, that's your first step. Then your second step might be, you might go 4 days instead of 5 days, and then do your artwork one day and begin to find outlets to sell that. And then when you think there is a little bit of a market, and you're doing actually not doing too badly with selling your art, then you might go part-time and work for 3 days and be an artist for another 2 days. And then you kind of gradually, you do it very gradually. I use the process, what we call scaling. So this comes from the solution focused, model. So I say, okay, you're at number 0 at the moment, and your number 10, what's your number 10? So my artist client might say, my number 10 is, I'm a full-time artist, and my paintings are being sold through this gallery, and I'm making a living, and I don't have to do any other work. That's my number 10. Okay, so I say, what's your first step? So just stay with your first step. Then what might be a second step? Then what might be a third step? And you only stay with one step at a time. So you don't worry about when you get to number 10 or how you're going to get to number 10. You just work towards your first step, then your second step, then your third step, and gradually you will get there.
Yeah, you stay the course and slowly,
Yeah.
one thing at a time. I can keep going on about this one because it's really such nuggets of information. It would be so valuable for the listeners of the podcast series knowing who you are. You have grandchildren probably.
Yes,
And
it is.
what's your suggestion to your grandchildren? If one piece of advice that you want them to remember all the way through to their adulthood, what would be that one piece of advice?
I think I've already mentioned it, of stay with what you love and do with what you love. And I think love is a very, very powerful emotion, and a catalyst for everything in your life. And I would say, just love anything and everything without reason. Don't judge anything, and just live your life with love. You don't need a reason for it.
As they can see probably behind you, it's aumconsultancy.co.uk. That's the website. And also
Yeah.
for your books, it's Amazon, or is there any other sources?
So my books are available through my website. So you can buy them through our website.
Okay.
They're on Amazon, and you can order them from any good bookshop. So they're under Barnes and Noble, Ingram Spark, Waterstones.
Okay.
So if you give them the title, they will order the books for you.
Great.
But the best place to buy our books is our website. That's the cheapest option. I mean, people can find me on Amazon. If you type my name in Amazon, Hansa Pankhania, all my books will come up. And my website is aumconsultancy.co.uk. We offer coaching and consultancy on well-being, one-to-one sessions, and organizational input as well. And my team are all very passionate about helping you to optimize your well-being and for you to live the life of your dreams, so please feel free to get in touch with us if we can be of any help at all.
Great. Thank you for your time and this valuable conversation. I think people would treasure it, and they'll find a lot of their answers that they're looking for.
Yeah, absolute delight, Arshad. Thank you so much for having me today. And I'd just like to say bye to all your listeners, and bless you all. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.